You're listening to the Integrated Impact. I am Imad and Naib, and this is the Storycraft. Welcome back. I want to say the word that makes most program managers physically uncomfortable: compliance. Feel that slight tension, that instinctive resistance. That's not natural reaction, that's a conditioned response. You have been trained by organizational culture, by cautionary tales, by audit horror stories, to fear compliance and to see it as the thing that slows you down, the thing that says no, the things that punishes. Today, I'm going to deprogram you because here's what the highest performing organizations in this sector know. Compliance is not the enemy of implementation. Compliance is actually the infrastructure of implementation. And it's not what slows you down, it's what allows you to speed up without breaking. And the organizations that understand this, they win more awards. They scale faster, they sleep better at night. Not because they follow the rules out of fear, but because they've built the rules into the DNA of how they operate. Welcome to episode 4: Compliance as a Strategy. Let me describe compliance dysfunction that I see most often. An organization receives a major award. Um, they hire a compliance officer, usually underfunded, understaffed, and positions as a support function. This person's job is to review things after they happen. After the procurement is complete, they check whether it followed proper procedures. After the cost is incurred, they determine whether it meets allowability criteria. After the hire is made, they verify that documentation is complete. The compliance as an audit preparation function, and it fails constantly. It fails because by the time the compliance officer reviews something, decisions have already been made, money has already been spent, and commitments have already been locked in. If something does not meet standards, the options are limited. Document the finding, create a corrective action plan, and hope it doesn't happen again. Meanwhile, the program team views compliance as an obstacle. They've learned that engaging in compliance team early means delays, questions, and paperwork, so they avoid it as long as possible. They make decisions first and seek forgiveness later. Or worse, they don't seek anything. They just hope that nobody notices. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle. The less program staff engage with compliance proactively, the more reactive and punitive the compliance function becomes. The more punitive it becomes, the more program staff avoid it until eventually you have two parallel organizations operating inside one entity: the doers and the checkers, with no integration between them. Under the uniform guidance, the cost principles aren't suggestions. Funding establishes that cost must be necessary, reasonable, allocable, and consistent. Funding defines reasonable as what prudent person would pay under the same circumstances. These are not arcane legal standards. They are common sense evaluated to regulatory requirements. And when compliance is treated as a separate function, a post hoc review rather than a design principle, organizations routinely violate these standards without even knowing it. They incur costs that seems reasonable in the moment, but can be defended in an audit. They allocate expenses to a word based on conven- convenience rather than methodology. And they create procurement documentations after the fact because nobody thought about it before. The result? Questions, costs, disallowable expenditures, damaged donor relationships, and in worst cases, debarment, permanent exclusions from federal or local fundings. None of these needs to happen, not if you change where compliance lives in your process. Here is the strategic reform. It's not a rule book, it's an operating system. Think about it as a uniform guidance, tells you how to manage finances, how to handle procurement, how to document personal activity, and how to track costs, how to report results. It provides comprehensive framework for running an effective organization. And if you read it not as you must do to avoid punishment, but as what excellence organization do as standard practice, it becomes a design template. I call this approach compliance forward design, and it works in 3 layers. Layer 1, design for allowability. Before you plan any activity, before you budget any cost, ask 3 questions. Is this cost necessary for performance of the award? Would a prudent person agree this is reasonable? Can I clearly articulate which award should bear this cost and why? If you can answer yes to only 3 questions at the design stage, you never have a compliance problem at the implementation stage. The compliance is built in. Layer 2, build auditable process. Don't create documentation after the fact. Design your process so the documentation is a natural byproduct of doing work. Your procurement process should generate compliant records as a matter of a workflow, not as a separate file exercise. Your timeline and effort reporting should be integrated into your project management system, not a separate form people fill out once a month from memory. Layer 3, use compliance as scaling framework. Here's where it becomes competitive advantage. When you have a robust compliance system, you can take more complex awards without increasing risk. You can manage sub-awards with confidence because your monitoring frameworks are already in place. You can respond to new funding opportunities faster because your cost allocation methodology, your indirect cost rate agreement, your procurement policies, they are all current, documented, and defensible. The practical implementation looks like this. Every new program design goes through compliance integration review before the proposal is finalized, not after the award is made. Before it, you identify every cost, every activity, every personnel decision that has compliance dimension, and you design the program so the compliance is inherent, not added. This means your finance team is in the design meeting from day one. Your HR team validates personnel requirements before they appear in the budget. And your procurement team confirms that your vendor strategy is defensible before you commit to it in the proposal. The result? When implementation begins, there are no surprises. Your compliance officer's job shifts from finding problems to confirming readiness. And that's fundamentally different and for far more valuable function. And here's the competitive reality. Donors know the difference. When a USAID contracting officers review your proposal and see that your budget narrative demonstrates clear understanding of allowability principle, that's your management approach integrates compliance into workflow rather than treating it as oversight. That's your key. Personnel include people with demonstrated regularity expertise. You score higher, period, because they know you are low risk. And in a competitive environment, lower risk wins. Your action item for this episode is simple but revealing. Pull up, as we are in California, the 2SFR 200. Subvert E, the cost principle. Read section 403, 404, and 405. They're short, don't worry, but they're clear. And they will fundamentally change how you think about every dollar you spend on a federal award. Then ask yourself, in your current program, is compliance designed in or bolted on? Are we building processes that are inherently defensible? Or are we creating documentation after the fact to cover decisions already made? If it is the latter, and for most organizations it is, you have an opportunity not just to reduce risk, but to build a machine that operates with less friction, more confidence, and greater speed. For hiring managers, please stop treating compliance expertise as a back office qualification. Your next program director should be able to articulate cost allowability principles as fluently as they discuss program design. The integrated leaders does not fear compliance, they wield it. I am Ibar Naib and this is the Storycraft. Episode 5 next is the final for this series, the Master Orchestrator. We are going to bring everyone and everything together. Community needs, board level reporting, financial strategy, personnel coordination into a unified leadership model that transforms how you run programs and how you run organizations. Compliance isn't the constraint, it is the competitive advantage. Use it. You've been listening to the Integrated Impact. This is the Storycraft. See you next time.